Okay, so we can see that we've got this process now of these two gases. The gases are going to be affected by pressures, both outside and inside the body. The job now is making sure that we're going to pick up our CO2 at that cellular level and drop off O2, and do this to meet the demands of the tissues. So the more metabolically active the tissue, the more delivery and pickup is needed. So here's what will happen. At our cellular level, all right, here's our cell. Nucleus, ribosomes, Golgi apparatus, mitochondria. Get the point, right? Get the idea. What is the job of this cell? To make its product. The only product it can make is a protein. Now, to do this, that cell needs energy. The energy is produced in this little organelle right there, the mitochondria, because the mitochondria is carrying out cellular respiration. Cellular respiration, and I'm talking about aerobic, okay, because anaerobic is done in the cytosol. It doesn't make it into the mitochondria, okay? Cellular respiration that is going to occur in the mitochondria, it requires O2, gives off CO2. Yes? All right. So, CO2, when we look at having cell after cell after cell after cell, because cells make up a tissue, right? And in this cellular makeup, do you guys remember extracellular fluid? All right. Because the cells are metabolically active, the production of that CO2 is high. Oxygen is low. But these cells, they're fed by that capillary bed. Is that correct? So what we're going to see happen is there's going to be, at the cellular level, at that tissue, a pressure. Wow. We're just full of pressure, aren't we? It's just a wonder we're just not a boiling over like, what's them little pots that just and blow up? No. Pressure cooker.
Oh, but you can though. Like you can go around, like if you go like DC Avenue and come back up.
Would you pay $10 to see?
Yes, I would.
Okay, so you know we're full of all these pressures. Okay, like some kind of just like that little pot getting ready to blow up. Okay, we're dependent, however, on these pressures because things want to move from the area of high to low pressure. So what we'll see is that pressure helps with the movement, because if the CO2 is high, that means that it wants to now move into my blood, right? And if oxygen is low, oxygen wants to move out of those capillary beds. So those pressures are important. Now, the carbon dioxide that has gotten produced, woo, bless me. Now, the carbon dioxide, okay, it's going to move into the blood fluid, right? Like we've said, that's going to increase the pH. We don't need that, okay? Now, here's what happens. The red blood cell contains an enzyme called carbonic anhydrase. Remember how I said we were going to have a buffering system for this CO2, making it into the fluid? This is one of the systems. And it actually comes from the red blood cell itself that is not picking up the CO2 like I originally thought. Is everybody following me? Mm-hmm. So, the carbonic anhydrase. This is where chlorine in the body comes into play. What's chlorine? On which side of the table? The right? Gas. It's a gas. Deadly gas. I mean, you stay in a room with an open bottle of Clorox that has no ventilation, what's going to happen to you? You're going to die or pass out. You probably you're going to pass out first, okay? And then hopefully somebody's going to find you in time, maybe just some fresh air. Just say. Now, because that's chlorine. What? I'm now going to have chlorine? Chlorine is important for this buffering system. Basically, having the chlorine, okay, they're going to help create an exchange for what happens to the CO2. It's called a shift. So chlorine actually is important. Where do we get that chlorine from? Our salts that we eat. At the point where we've got to take care of the CO2 and then oxygen, okay? When the buffering occurs, the affinity of hemoglobin. What's an affinity? Like, oh, come here. Okay, wanting something, okay? The affinity gets reduced on that hemoglobin. And that is going to make that hemoglobin release the oxygen. Otherwise, oxygen does not want to let go from the hemoglobin. Or maybe I should say hemoglobin does not want to let go of the oxygen. Something has to make it let go. And the process of buffering helps that. So actually, the CO2 being present will help make the oxygen leave the hemoglobin, which is kind of cool. And then that oxygen can leave the blood and go to the cells, go to that extracellular fluid. Now, the veins. When we were talking about the circulatory system, Do y'all remember us talking about it having a bigger blood supply in the veins than the arteries? Okay, because the blood in the veins is at almost zero pressure. We're dependent on other factors to push that blood back to the heart. There are one-way valves, okay, but the veins were also bigger than the arteries. Do you guys remember that? This is important because they act as a reserve. Just because the red blood cell is in the veins does not mean that it has lost all of its oxygens. Because of that dissociation curve, that red blood cell might still have 2 oxygens on its return back to the lungs. Are you following me? Mm-hmm. So that tells me that in my veins, I have an oxygen reserve. This is important, especially in an emergency situation. Such as what? Hemorrhaging. I can still get blood to the tissues for a certain amount of time, but that hemorrhaging needs to be brought under control. Okay? Not every red blood cell is going to drop off every single oxygen at that cellular level. It's just not. So, when we look at what takes place at the tissue level, at the cellular level, all right, my red blood cell, CO2 is making its way to the blood. We need O2 to make its way to the tissues, to the cells. The CO2 in the red blood cell, we have that carbonic anhydrase, which can buffer the CO2. In the process, it's requiring a chlorine atom. That chlorine atom reduces the affinity of the oxygen to the hemoglobin, and the hemoglobin lets go of the oxygen, and the oxygen comes out. That's what takes place at that cellular level. Now, once we get back to the lungs, and we're at the level of the alveoli, what we need at that point, we need CO2 to be released, dissolve in this water membrane, and go into the alveoli. We need oxygen to go in the opposite direction to the red blood cell. And under normal situations, okay, this process is taking place. Oxygen, if this red blood cell and the hemoglobin's in there, depending upon their saturation, 25%, 50%, 0%, whatever the case might be, they may or may not pick up oxygen. But no matter what, we're going to be dropping off CO2. Which one did we say was more dissolvable? The CO2. The CO2 moves more easily than the oxygen. It's a safety factor. If those cells are not metabolically active, not demanding oxygen, we don't need that oxygen to be dropped off. We need that oxygen in other places. What is the biggest demand of oxygen in your body? What organ? What system? Your brain. Your brain is the biggest demand for oxygen. That's why we have all of this control out here on the periphery. Because the majority of it, to the brain it goes. You don't get enough oxygen to the brain, what happens? Gonna pass out, might get a little dizzy, might, have some other symptoms show up. It's not a lot of fun, is it? You're gonna say it ain't. But wait a minute, that's an accepted word now, right? There we go. So it ain't no fun not to have a lot of oxygen to your brain, Oh man, that just starts a whole series of things going on in my head. Now, this system adjusts to those metabolic needs. So, based upon the tissues that are metabolically active, they are the ones where the oxygen is going to be released. Otherwise, that red blood cell, as it passes through the capillary beds, it's not going to worry about dropping off oxygens at cells that are not metabolically active. So, what we find, the hemoglobin responds to the need of the tissues. The response of the hemoglobin, there are 4 rates that affect it. There's an ambient pressure of oxygen, which is just simply what is the demand. Temperature. An elevated body temperature creates more dropping off of oxygen. For example, if you begin to start exercising, you're increasing the temperature of your cells, okay, because you're working them, and that's going to demand more oxygen, which means you're going to increase your respiration rate. And if you're just sitting, all these, if you're temperature, your respiration increases. People like higher temperature, when you're sick, their respiration increases. The Bohr effect, which is one of the gas laws, okay? And this is one where I'm kind of like, duh, okay? Active tissues create more CO2 because they're metabolically active, okay? And therefore increases the H pluses. I'm sort of like, duh, okay? Tell me something different, all right? That means we get that carbonic anhydrase, that chloride shift, the oxygen will want to leave the hemoglobin. Wonder who was working in lab that day. Now, this one, I'm mentioning it because, for example, you'll see this when you go into respiratory therapy, all right? The BPG, bisphosphoglycerate, it's something that can actually be measured. And what this does, it's an intermediate, and it's done at the time of anaerobic fermentation, the one that doesn't make it into the mitochondria.